that path. Now the color of the shape really doesn't matter, so I'm just going to make it red just so that you can see it. There it is, red. What I'm going to do now is enable the layer of the snow border. I'm going to click and drag her up to the top of the layers panel. And I'm also going to double tap here on the zoom tool just so we can see the image at 100%. And actually, now that I'm looking at it at 100%, I'm actually going to right click on it and choose fit on screen so that I can see the entire composition. Then I'm going to press Ctrl J, Command J on the Mac to duplicate. So now I have two copies. I'm going to disable the one on the top by clicking on this eye icon, and the one on the bottom here, I'm going to clip to the shape below it. So with that layer selected, I'm going to press Ctrl Alt G, Command Option G on the Mac. Then I'm going to enable the layer right above that, and I'm just going to make a selection around the snow border. So I'm going to click on the clicking and dragging, and notice that my selection is not very accurate. You shouldn't spend too much time, a bit more. Shift and click on the layer below it so they're both selected with the move tool. It moves both, and they can be in different groups and they can be separated, so that allows us to keep those two layers together. What I'm going to do now is press Ctrl T, Command T to transform, to scale this and adjust it accordingly. If you can't see the corner handles that you want to click and drag on, you can press Ctrl 0, that's Command 0 on the Mac, for the bird's eye view that allows you to see all four corner handles. Then I'm going to click and drag on this one here to scale it down by holding Shift Alt, that's Shift Option on the Mac. Now at this point, we can go back and adjust the layer mask from Adobe stock. They're not free, but you can use a watermark preview to practice on. So I would recommend you doing that just so that you can have a way to practice and learn. So the first thing I gotta do is get rid of this shovel. I'm gonna click on the lasso tool. I'm gonna make a selection around this shovel. And as you can see, it's not very accurate. That's okay. Then I can hold Shift and Backspace. Or you can go into Edit, Fill to bring up the Fill menu. Under Contents, choose Content Aware and press OK. And Photoshop will fill in those pixels and make the shovel. This I can drag and make a very rough selection on the areas that I know for sure I want to keep, which is all this top part here. Now that I have the selection active, I can fill with white. White is currently my foreground color. To fill with the foreground color, you can icon to then with the brush tool, I can paint with white on this layer mask to start revealing some of that snow. So I'm going to use the bracket keys on the keyboard as I work to increase and decrease the size of my brush. So I'm just painting with white, just bringing in some of it. Go to Edit and Copy, or you can press Ctrl C. I'm going to deselect that element, Ctrl D, Command D on the Mac. Go back into the file that we're working with. I'm going to paste it here, Ctrl V, Command V on the Mac, and there it is. As you can see, it's a high resolution file, which is good. I'm going to change the blend mode to screen so the black pixels disappear and we only keep the bright pixels, in this case the snow. Then I'm going to press Ctrl T, down. I'm going to press Ctrl 0, Command 0 again to zoom back in. And I'm going to just rotate it and make it fit accordingly. Now in this case, I'm going to flip it horizontally. So right click on it, flip horizontally, and keep rotating it. So maybe something like this. And I can, scale it more if I need to, or rotate it more if I need to. So whatever distortions I need, I can, scale it more if I need. Control T to transform, that's Command T in the Mac. Control 0, Command 0 on the Mac, and scale this one in as well. And I'm going to zoom in and rotate. I'm going to open up this group. So we'll click on the snow layer here and click on Drop Shadow. Notice a little drop shadow there. You can use the settings that I have here if you like. Notice that I'm not using black, I'm using a dark burgundy color, which is similar to that color you see right there, right under the frame. And just brought the intensity down to about 25% using multiply. And notice the light is Command J on the Mac to duplicate. So now I have two copies. I'm going to disable the one on the top by clicking on this eye icon, and the one on the bottom here, I'm going to clip to the shape below it. So with that layer selected, I'm going to press Control Alt G, Command Option G on the Mac. Then I'm going to enable the layer right above that, and I'm just going to make a selection around the snow border. So I'm going to click on the clicking and dragging, and notice that my selection is not very accurate. You shouldn't spend too much time at it, a bit more. That allows us to keep those two layers together. What I'm going to do now is press Control T, Command T to transform, to scale this and adjust it accordingly. If you can't see the corner handles that you want to click and drag on, you can press Control 0, that's Command 0 on the Mac, for the bird's eye view that allows you to see all four corner handles. Then I'm going to click and drag on this one here to scale it down by holding Shift Alt, that's Shift Option on the Mac. Now at this point, we can go back and adjust the layer mask if we need to. So I'm going to zoom in just so we can see with a negative value and see how that's adjusted. So you can keep adjusting it and making sure that that line is gone, but we don't lose any detail that we want to keep. Also, with this brush selected, I can click and drag here on the hair, and hopefully we'll get a better selection. So now I didn't do that good of a job here, so I'm just gonna leave it like this for now, and then I can come back with the brush tool and fix it as is. And by the way, the links to these files are on the description. You have to download them from Adobe stock. They're not free, but you can use a watermark preview to practice on. So I would recommend you doing that just so that you can have a way to practice and learn. So the first thing I gotta do is get rid of this shovel. I'm gonna click on the layer mask if we need to. So I'm gonna zoom in just so we can see with a negative value and see how that's adjusted. So you can keep adjusting it and making sure that that line is gone, but we don't lose any detail that we want to keep. Also, with apply, in this case, we're taking the blue copy, applying the screen blend mode onto itself. So notice what happens here on the snow on the edge. It essentially turns white, which is what we want. You could left as well, and press OK. Now, what I'm going to do now is click on the brush tool, select black as my foreground color so I can paint with black. I'm going to increase the size of my brush by clicking on the right bracket key on the keyboard, and I'm just going to paint with black. And again, you don't have to be very accurate. As long as you get close enough, it should be good. And I'm just painting these pixels away, which represent the floor. And once again, I'm going to go into Image, Adjustment, Levels, and darken up some of the darker pixels and brighten up the midtones a little bit. And press OK. So this selection looks like it'll work. So I'm going to press Control, Command on the Mac, click on the blue copy icon to make a selection around it. Go back into the Layers panel. On the background layer, which is the only layer that we have in this document, I'm going to click on the new layer mask icon, and notice now that the floor is no longer there. Now, it's not a perfect selection, but it's going to work because the color of the floor and the color of the table are very similar colors, and a really big layer, these corner handles, to keep the file constrained. The angle is not really matching my scene, so I'm going to right click on it and choose Flip Horizontal. And from here, I can match the scene a little bit better, and I can even distort it if I want to. Maybe right click on it and choose Distort, just to get a better perspective of the scene that we're working with. Maybe something like this. And press Enter when you're done. Now that we have this file in place, I'm going to press Z on the keyboard, right click, Fit to Screen. Then I'm going to press V on the keyboard to get the Move tool, and maybe I can move it around if I need to. And I'm going to click on the new group icon to create a new group. I'm going to click and drag this snow layer in there. I'm going to collapse it, and now it's in that group. Next, I'm going to hold Alt. I'm going to use the bracket keys on the keyboard as I work to increase and decrease